Yo, what's going on, everybody? Abdullah Konte here. Hope everything is treating you well. It's Monday. It's back to the grind. Hope you guys had a fantastic Monday. Some of you guys are still shoveling yourselves out of the snow out here in DC. Snow in that snowcrete, whatever they're calling it. Hope everything is well with y'all. I saw a tweet yesterday, and I tweeted it out about the linebacker position, about Devin Lloyd maybe not coming back to Jacksonville. And it just kind of got me thinking and, trying to think of like what to talk about today. And man, what are they going to do at linebacker? There's a big, when it comes to talking about the moves that they're going to make today, make this offseason. I was thinking about it, and I heard B. Mitch and Finley talking about re-signing people, and one of the ones they had the hardest discussion on was Bobby Wagner. I think it's a hard decision because I think there is, depending on who you talk to, there's two sides of this fence. Like, there's a side that believes that and believes that Bobby Wagner is washed and they need to get rid of him or they need to go a different direction. And then there's also people who believe that, Bobby is the key leader on this defense and also a playmaker. And I mean, I think he was in the top 5 of tackles last year. So obviously he knows how to still play. And, but there was a lot of plays where we saw him getting beat by running backs, which, to play devil's advocate, some of those running backs beat everybody when it comes to, pass coverage. So there is a discussion about what they do at linebacker. It's a hard one because it is a strong position. It's one of these, for what Bobby does, if you are going to go a different direction, it's really going to change, the dynamic of the team on the defensive side of the ball. If they were to do that, or if they were to change, so, what would that look like? And so, I just sat there and I thought about it. I was like, is it, is Bobby going to retire? We don't know. He's 36, I believe. Obviously this is probably around the time when people start to hang it up. And, I think he played well last year, but I also could recognize that it wasn't as good as the year prior, and it maybe wasn't as good as in, 5 years ago, obviously. Like, he is on the tail end of his career. Is he at that point where he's kind of like, look, I know he's had a lot of involvement with Howard. I think he was going to school there as well. Is there a role for him coaching-wise? Like, is he going to be somebody who, it gives vibes of a player coach as somebody who could probably get into coaching eventually. How much does he love playing football? I know there's records he still wants to break. And I think, to me, I don't think he's completely washed where he couldn't play anymore. Like, I think that, the notion that he's just has to go, I don't know if I agree with that. Now, I think the improvement needs to be had. And so for me, if he does decide to come back or if he does decide to play again, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him back if there was some kind of addition, whether that's in the draft or in free agency. Now, in the draft, there are some good players. I mean, recently I did a video about it, a few days ago, and recently there's been a large discussion about Sonny Styles going, being that pick at 7, because there is this thought that, and as we get closer, maybe Bain, Bailey, and Downs are all gone. And Reese, obviously. If all those guys are gone, what do the Commanders do? A linebacker is probably the next position of need. I mean, you could argue wide receiver, but linebacker is a big one. And if Sonny Styles is a great player that I think would excel, and if it wasn't Sonny Styles, there are some other guys in the end of the, in the 3rd round, Torian York, Jacob Rodriguez, the Lewis kid from Pittsburgh. There are some guys, and I might do a deeper dive on the draft prospects for backers specifically, but if you were to bring Bobby back and pair him with one of these new guys that kind of play that mentor role, somebody to kind of coach someone up that is up and coming to be that next guy in line, I would be all for that. maybe somebody who could play more third downs, more than Bobby could. Now, people mentioned Jordan McGee. I mean, I thought Jordan McGee played really well at the end of the year when he actually started to get more playing time. And so could he be potentially the guy that they believe is going to take over? Possibly. I still think that they probably need another guy, especially from what we're hearing. It's possible that they're going to move to a 3-4 front, which could maybe move, Luvu on the outside. You're going to need two linebackers in the middle. And if Bobby is on his way out, you need to bring somebody else who's going to be maybe a younger talent for the future, right? So, and if he doesn't come, you definitely need somebody else, right? So, I like the draft class somewhat. I don't know if it's a very deep class. I think the free agency class is actually not bad. And, from what we heard yesterday about Devin Lloyd, I mean, I decided to kind of jump in to look at maybe some few players that could potentially work here, right? The first guy is Quay Walker. We talked about Quay Walker a few days back when I was breaking down, I can't remember, his last name was Peerless, CBS Sports article that I was breaking down that had Quay Walker paired here. And I really like that move because, Quay Walker, he's 25. The market value for him looks about like $8 million. 8 to 9 mil. I get the vibe that he might be testing free agency. He could easily, get signed back to Green Bay. So, some of these guys might not even be options, but he's really long. He's somebody that I think could probably play, a 3-4 edge, as well as a normal linebacker. He's probably my favorite out of this group. There is one more player that I really like also, but I think he has a lot of like leadership kind of qualities and somebody that I think would be a good pairing with Bobby if they were deciding to bring somebody in to learn from Bobby overall or bring somebody over even to take over. It looked like he was kind of right in the middle of that defense, last year. I think for his price point or his value, I think it's something where you could grab him and not feel like you're spending too much at linebacker, since there is a discussion about is linebacker that high of a position of need, and so the next guy that I liked, I just, Nakobe Dean, I know he's an Eagle, so a lot of people maybe not are up for that, but the guy can play, man, and he looks like he has fun playing it. Like he just plays with 100% effort. I think he's somebody who gives me vibes that he loves the game. He gives me vibes of somebody who just truly loves the game, and it's just like all over the field. And I know that he missed some games last year. I think he missed about 6 or 7 games. But I think they are probably going to move away from Nakobe Dean. Would he want to stay in? And taking somebody away from the Eagles, I think, is always great. Is he going to stay in conference? I don't know. I like the way he plays. I think that he has blitz ability also. He's really quick, so that's somebody that I would be interested in. I know there's people who've talked about Leo Chenal. He kind of gives me vibes of he's 25, he's young too. I think he's probably going to end up going back to Kansas City, but yeah, he had 48 pressures since 20. He's known to be a strong blitzer, and he has a lot of upside. He has some versatility when it comes to, I think, being able to play on the outside, play in the middle also. He probably wouldn't be my ideal number one. Nakobe Dean's an $8 million person. I think I'm trying to figure out where Chenal's list at when it comes to financially. Yeah, they have him about $5 million, right? That's a pretty good deal if you're looking for a discounted, type player. It really comes down to this is somebody I could see that could be in discussion, because we got to think about not how the average person would spend, but how AP would spend. So if they are looking for somebody maybe more on the cheaper side, Chenal might be that guy overall. I think that Dean and, I think that Quay Walker would be better fits. And then look, the last one, the big one, is Devin Lloyd. And with Devin Lloyd, I think that if you're willing to spend big money on somebody, I mean, the market value is $20 million, which is why it looks like Jacksonville. From what that tweet said, it seems like Jacksonville would love to bring him back. They just think he's too expensive. And the knock that I could say for Lloyd is that, there was questioning if he was that good of a player the 3 years prior to his last season. And we've seen people play in their money year. Even Daron Payne. I mean, Daron Payne was crazy in his money year. Like, if we go back to remember how he played in that money year, people will play better in that money year knowing that, like, I play big here. This means I'm going to make something. And, after that, after signing those people, I mean, I'll never forget when Todd Gurley got paid. Wasn't the same player ever again, right? Is that the case for Devin Lloyd? I don't know. I'm not saying that. From what I saw this year, he had 5 picks this year. If you want to talk about somebody who could help the passing game, to prevent catches from the backfield, I mean, majority of his highlights are tackling running backs out of the backfield after they catch the ball, which is like the biggest knock that this team had last year for Bobby, was that, like, he might have been able to do really well on first and second down, but third down was when he struggled the most. People were getting tired of seeing running backs catching the ball and dipping. And so that's where I'm at, is that if you wanted to pay big money for him, this probably makes the most sense as the number one guy, which is why I think that the Commanders should be considering it 100%. Now, his market value looks at $20 million, which I don't know if that's worth a linebacker. I had somebody on Twitter say they'd much rather spend that on a DN, but I mean, who in the DN market, would you rather spend it on? Because the only people I think that are going to probably push for that number are Odafe Owe, who I think is probably going to go back to LA, Jalen Phillips, who has injury concerns, and then Trey Hendrickson, who's old. So, if you're going to spend big money on somebody, is this the guy? And then you hope that one of those strong D linemen fall to you at 7, and you can capitalize on young talent being where you get that pass rush for the next year. I don't know. I mean, it's something where they are at a crossroads at linebacker. Like, I think a lot of these other positions, like, you can talk about corner, and so many people are like, Marshawn's gone. Like, you just kind of know who's going to be there. Trey Amos, Mikey. Like, there are positions that we kind of have an idea of exactly what they're going to do. Linebacker's kind of confusing. And I think that when it comes to what Durante Jones is going to do, that'll obviously make more of an impact. And I think also just finding out what Bobby wants to do, because I do think if Bobby wants to come back, I know people aren't like in love with the idea of him coming back, but I'm pretty sure that this coaching staff, as well as Bobby himself, would want to come back here and play if he was to return to football. And, I don't really see another team taking a chance on him since he's 36, like maybe. But I just think that he would be a great addition to the team, or, when it comes to implementing a system for the next guy. Like, there really needs to be some type of succession plan, and I think one of these 4 guys could do it. I personally, if it was me, I would go for Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. Those are the 2 guys that I think are at the right price point, that you could get them and still not hurt your pocketbook too much. Now, will they cost more than the $8 million that's saying here? Yeah, possibly. It could be $10 million. I don't know. I just think that makes the most sense. I think those 2 guys could come in and take charge on this defense. But, I think Devin Lloyd might just be a little too pricey. I think he's a really good player, but, he's 27, so he's a little older than those other guys. Those other guys are younger. I mean, Quay Walker is 25. I would love to grab, and so is Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean just turned 25. It would be much nicer to get a younger guy that you can mold, as you're building this defense together. So that's my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. Feel free, jump in, join the conversation. Please like, subscribe. Give me feedback on what you guys think. If this is just a dumb conversation, if this is just, one that is actually an easier answer than I think it is. But that's kind of where I stand. It's possible that they can go young in the draft. I think that there's some good players here that they could really, discuss. And that's just some of the guys that I talked about. There's some more here. Some people are Devin Bush fans. There's some other players that could be in this conversation. Kenneth Murray. But I think the guys that I talked about probably fit this team the best. But thank you all for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, peace.